Hari Om. We'll chant from verse number 60. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasabham manaha tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita dhyayato vishayans pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate krodhat bhavati sammohah sammohat smriti vibhramah smriti bhramshat buddhinashah buddhinashat pranashyati ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayanindriyaischaran atmavashyirvidheyatma prasadamadighachati prasade sarvadukhanam hanirasyopajayate prasannachetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate. The Sthita Prajna Lakshanas, Bhagavan is telling Arjuna. So, Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha. Sthita Prajna is fully content in himself, has no kamnas, the senses as well as the mind is under his control. And then Bhagavan gives advice to all the seekers that unless we control our senses, it is not possible to gain proper wisdom and gain that abidance in the self. That even for those who strive on this path, the indriyas are very strong. They can take away forcefully the mind also. Therefore, one should, having controlled the senses, one should direct one's attention to the highest goal. That is God, our own self. So the whole attention or energy of the mind, intellect should be directed towards attaining that self-realization. Otherwise, the indriyas, they are so strong that they can take us into more and more samsara, more and more bondage. Bhagavan talks about this fall also, that once we start thinking about the objects, we start getting attached to them, then the longing, desire arises in our mind. If there is obstruction in the desire, it gets converted into krodha, and it gives rise to moha, a delusion. You can't discriminate what is right and what is not right. And thereafter the person loses all his memory also regarding the wisdom which he has acquired, and the buddhi cannot function. So with buddhi nasha, the person gets totally destroyed. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. Therefore, having controlled our senses, having controlled the raga dvesha of the senses, one should live in this world experiencing only those objects which are within dharma and constantly strive to attain that supreme, shift the attention toward the supreme. So when we do this, our mind will start becoming more and more calm and peaceful, and we will start experiencing that unconditional joy. That's called prasad. We will get prasad. We will get prasad, unconditional joy, and this unconditional joy, prasad, destroys all dukkha. Prasad is sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate. And because of this prasad, the buddhi naturally gain abidance in the self, because there is no distraction. One has started experiencing that joy within, so the senses don't go outside, the mind doesn't get distracted, the buddhi is not distracted, it gains abidance in the self itself. So prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. The buddhi gain abidance in that self which is all pervading. Buddhi becomes of the nature of the self alone. So the greatness of this prasad, Bhagavan has said, and also this joy which one gains from the self is the supreme joy. It cannot be compared with any other thing. So it can be gained only when we shift our attention towards our own self. So that greatness of this sukha, Bhagavan now mentions in the next verse number 66. Nasti buddhirayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shantihi ashantasya kuthas sukham nasti buddhirayuktasya nacha bhavayata shantihi. Bhagavan says, na asti buddhihi ayuktasya. One who is ayukta. Ayukta means disintegrated person. Disintegrated means one's actions, senses, emotions, understanding, they are not well integrated. Our understanding is one, emotions are about something else, actions are happening in a different way, senses are running wild. So such a person is called disintegrated person. Integration is like all our faculties are tuned together towards that one supreme goal, integrated. So that is the most important quality with all our sadhana. We should try to attain this integrity. Our vani should be tuned to our mind to our wisdom. It's called integrated person. Otherwise what happens? There is split in our personality. We do one thing, we say one thing, we think one thing, we believe in something else. The total disintegrated person. Such a person becomes unfit even in the worldly affair. So what to talk about on the spiritual path? So Bhagavan says, na asti buddhihi ayuktasya. One who is not integrated will not be able to gain that buddhi, understanding about the self. Atma swarupa vishaya buddhihi. That buddhi, the understanding that I am that Brahma, will not become clear, will not be gained by one who is disintegrated. See, even to understand simple things of this world, one's attention should be there. Like little children, sometimes it becomes very difficult to keep them focused or keep them in one subject like. Why little children, elders also? Even in the talks and pravachan and all, to maintain that one single pointed attention is very difficult. Now and then our mind runs away. Then again we bring them back. Then again it runs away. So a person who is well integrated will be able to comprehend the self. Because for that our 100% attention of the buddhi is required to understand who am I. And when our mind is distracted through our senses and all, this is not possible. So the senses should support the mind should support our buddhi, and buddhi should be engaged in contemplating on the self. Just as in our even in democracy also, different parties are there. If you want to pass a bill, you need majority support. Otherwise there is total chaos and confusion and all, and the bill will not get passed. Similarly, we have to pass a bill. We have to focus our attention in understanding ourself. For that, buddhi is required. But buddhi can function properly when it is supported by mind, our emotions. We should feel. I should feel that I want to know. The jidnyasa should be there, and the feeling also. And the senses should be also under our control. Then it is possible to deeply think and understand who am I. So Bhagavan says, one who is ayuktaha na asti buddhihi na cha yuktasya buddhihi and na cha ayuktasya bhavana. Again, one who is not integrated, one who has not gained proper understanding of the self, meditation also is not possible. Bhavana is continuous paying attention to the self. First step is to understand who am I through thinking, contemplation, and then we have to continuously pay attention to that self which we have understood. So at present what we mean by self is our ego only. What we mean by self is our body, our personality, made up of our mind, our thoughts, emotions, memories, etc. But the self is deeper than that. Self is much subtler than that. So with the help of the guidance of the teacher and the scripture, when we understand the self, we have to constantly pay attention to it, constantly direct that thoughts and thoughts of the buddhi toward that self. That's called bhavana. Nididhyasan like bhavana. So buddhi is knowledge, and then there's nididhyasan or dhyan or bhavana. So Bhagavan says both these are not possible for those who are disintegrated. So nacha yuktasya buddhihi and nacha yuktasya bhavana. Children, you sit at one place. Don't start running here and there. So when our thoughts starts running here and there, then it becomes difficult for us to maintain that one attention on the self. It's very difficult. Therefore, in order to practice this, we can chant Bhagavan's name, or we do Bhagavan's puja. So while doing that puja, the continuous attention is on that activity. So that helps to integrate our personality towards one object, towards one goal. So without that integrity, without that integration of the personality, buddhi as well as bhavana is not possible. Okay, if it is not possible, then what? He says, abhavet, nacha bhaveta shantihi. One who cannot shift one's attention toward the self, One who cannot pay attention, continuous attention to the self. Self here means that supreme self, God within us. God is residing in each one of us. He is residing in our heart. लोग यहाँ वहाँ खोजते रहते, भगवान कहाँ है, ओ भगवान कहाँ है. He is sitting in your heart, in everyone's heart. So don't have to worry. He is sitting in the heart of each and every being, not only human being, animal, birds, plant. सबके हृदय में, प्लांट का भी हृदय है, उनके हृदय में भी बैठे हुए हैं. ईश्वर सर्वभूतानां हृद्देशे अर्जुन तिष्ठति. ईश्वर सबके हृदय में बैठे हुए हैं. बट वी कैनॉट पे अटेंशन टू द हृदय. हमारा हृदय एक तो एक जगह पर नहीं रहता है, हाँ, और उसमें दूसरा कूड़ा करकट भर के रखा हुआ है. We feel that our heart with so many other people also. The big crowd is there. I don't know how Bhagavan manages to sit. Big crowd in our heart. But he is sitting there, waiting for us to look at him, to pay attention to him. But we have to learn to enter our heart. Learn to become, what is the heart? It is that place wherein we experience the sense of I, the closest. See, we experience the sense of I throughout our body. We experience the sense of I in our senses, in our mind, everywhere. But where do we experience it? Very close. Where do we experience I? I am. That is our heart. It is antakarana only. Heart is not something different. It is our antakarana, but very sukshma and shuddha antakarana. In that, there is the presence of that divinity, God. So we have to first understand who is this God, how he is, comprehend him, and then pay attention to God. That is called meditation. To just look at Bhagavan, who is seated in our heart. To keep paying attention to him. To become aware of his presence. See, our Guruji also mentioned the difference between prayer and meditation. Prayer is when we talk to Bhagavan, and meditation when we listen to him. We have talked enough. Now listen to what he is saying. But he speaks in silence. So we have to pay attention to that presence of divinity within us, who is expressing as our own self. So that constant paying attention to that is called bhavana. And when we do this for a long time, we will experience supreme peace, shanti. That's called peace, shanti. See, this sukha and shanti, they go together. And that is what everyone wants in life. See, even if we have everything in this world, but shanti nahi hai, kya fayda? Lot of people, they say also, Swami ji, sab kuch hai, shanti nahi hai. You should not ask further question to them, because they give the whole history of how ashanti is there. कि आपकी शांति भी चली जाती है फिर. But it is true. And sometimes even little children, they say, no shanti, no peace. So shanti is something which is not exactly dependent on the external situation, condition. We might have money, we might not have money. We might be educated, uneducated. We might be young or old. We might be of whatever religion, whatever background, whatever gender. There is no guarantee that we will have shanti. There is no guarantee that we can, we can have that sukha. It doesn't depend on any of these external factors, because it is the nature of our own self. And we have to pay attention to that self. It's like in winter, if we want heat, we have to go towards that fire. Fire is kept at one corner. We have to approach that fire we will experience that heat. We cannot get that heat by just looking at a picture of fire. Similarly, that Shanti and Sukha which we are seeking in the whole world is present in our own self, in our own heart, is God. Another name of God is Shanti. Another name of God is Sukha. Because sometimes people get allergic with the name God also. They say, no, I don't believe in God. Okay, do you believe in Shanti? Yes. Do you believe in Sukha? Yes. So that is another name of God only. He is Shanti, He is Sukha Swarup, and He is present in you, in your heart. We have to pay attention to Him. That paying attention to that God within us is called bhavana, is called meditation. So Bhagavan says, Nacha abhavayata shantihi. Those who cannot pay attention to that God within, there is no shanti for them. Shanti doesn't come through by paying attention to the world. It is not there anywhere else. We have to be tuned to that God and then live in this world. Nobody says that we have to withdraw from the world or reject things of this world or don't have any relationship with people around. No. All relationship, all interaction should be through that divinity. Then it is good. Devoid of divinity, all relationships will give trouble. With that divinity, all relationship will be good, will give peace and happiness. So, nacha abhavayata shantihi, one who cannot meditate on that divinity within, Bhagavan says, na shantihi for them. Na shantihi. Shanti is not possible. That peace, that total quietude and total relaxation of the entire personality, that there is no agitation of any kind, there is no fear, there is no disturbance of any kind. Total peace, fearless, that nothing in this world can make them afraid or frightened of anything. So that is called Shanti. And Ashantasya kutas sukham. This Shanti and Sukha go together. So one who has not gained this Shanti, Bhagavan says, where is the Sukha for that person? Ashantasya kutas sukham. Where is Sukha for those who have not gained this Shanti? So this Shanti and this Sukha go together. That is the very nature of the divinity within. And we can experience that divinity by just paying attention to it. It is just about paying attention. See, it is like even anything else, even eating food. If our attention is not there, we will not be able to experience the rasa in it. कहीं लोग गप 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 खा लेते हैं, पता भी नहीं चलता उनको क्या खा लिया है. But if you eat slowly and pay attention, you will be able to experience the rasa in it. Similarly, that Shanti Swarup, Sukha Swarup, Bhagavan is there in our heart. We have to pay attention to experience that Sukha and Shanti. That is our only sadhana. कि उन पर ध्यान केंद्रित करो, भगवान पर. But to pay attention, we have to gain proper knowledge. So with the help of the scriptures, try to understand exactly what are the lakshanas, what is the characteristic of that God who is there within. Because otherwise we will be paying attention to something else. Instead of paying attention to God, we might be just looking at some of the thoughts, some of the emotions, or some other vague ideas, thinking that I am thinking of God. Bhagwan ek jagah baithe and I will be looking somewhere else only. So in order to make our dhyan more clear and proper, we have to gain knowledge. That's called buddhi. So Bhagwan says, first integrate your personality through karma yoga, through proper control over your senses. Then with that integrated personality, gain proper understanding of that Supreme Self and meditate on that Self. After gaining knowledge, meditate, bhavana, Because without that bhavana, you will not gain shanti, and without that shanti, you will not gain sukha. So this is a very beautiful thing which Bhagavan has revealed here. Simple method of attaining that supreme peace and joy. If this is not done, if we just pay attention only to the senses and the outer objects, then what will happen? Then our shanti will also go away. That is what now Bhagavan again tells in the next verse. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano nuvidhiyate tadasya harati prajñām vayurnavamivambhasi indriyanam hi charatam yanmano. Indriyanam hi charatam yan manaha anuvidhiyate tadasya harati prajñām. He says that indriyas, when they move in their respective objects, see our 5 organs of perception we have, and they move in their respective 5 objects. Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. Shabda means sound, sparsha, touch, shabda, sparsha, rupa, form and color, rasa, taste, and gandha, smell. These are the 5 senses which we have. They are all made from the 5 subtle elements which have these 5 characteristic of shabda, sparsha, rasa, rupa, rasa, gandha. So the senses keep moving in those objects. That is their job. If your eyes are open, you cannot prevent the eyes from seeing. You can keep your eyes and don't see, unless your mind is not there. But if the eyes are open, mind is behind, then whatever is in front, it comes into you. It's like our camera. You just open the shutter and click. Whatever is in front, it will get recorded in that. Similarly, the senses, they keep moving in the sense objects. And each of the senses, they have their raga, dvesha, likes, dislikes. So they remain stuck to some objects. Even when lot of objects are there, suddenly your attention will get stuck at one place. If you go to a supermarket also, 10 people going to the same supermarket, they will see 10 different things and come. If you ask them, kya dekha? Oh, dekha. Acha, maine to dekha nahi wo. So each one of us, we see the world, but our indriyas get stuck to one particular object depending on our like and on our dislike. So when those indriyas are running around these objects, the mind also gets involved in it. If strong likes and dislikes are there, the mind gets involved in it. If strong likes and dislikes are not there, mind remains what you call little passive only. It's not very active. But if strong likes and dislikes are there, mind gets involved. And once the mind gets involved, start thinking, feeling, the buddhi also gets involved. So buddhi gives up whatever engagement it had about contemplating on the self and all, and starts running after that mind, and mind runs after the senses. So indriyanam hi charatam yan manaha anuvidhiyate. So when the indriyas are functioning in their objects and the mind is running after those indriyas, then Bhagavan says, tadasya harati prajñām. Then the prajña, the understanding, the buddhi, which is there focused on ourselves, that buddhi also is forcefully taken out. Forcefully it goes out towards those objects and start thinking about those objects. Instead of thinking about the self, then we start thinking about those objects. Our Gurudev used to say in a very humorous way that sometimes we sit to chant Bhagavan's name also. Krishna, 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 Krishna we say, and suddenly we remember, oh, Krishnamurti had taken some money from me. I hope he returns it. Where did he go? He took my money and he has gone for shopping. So from Krishna it goes to Krishnamurti, from there to shopping, then from there God knows where it will go. So that is how the buddhi is taken away forcefully by the mind, when the mind is taken away forcefully by the senses. So therefore when we meditate, we have to first control the senses only. The eyes are kept closed. That is the first thing we have to do, because eyes are very powerful. वो देखते हैं. Even in group meditation and all, once in a while we open the eyes to see what the other fellow is doing. Because he always said, I meditate very much, so let me see whether he is meditating. Same time he will also open his eyes and look at you. Like a coincidence. Eh? So this eye is very powerful, so we close them. Mouth we close. We should not keep chewing gum in the mouth and meditate. So mouth closed. Ears we can't close it, so we have to sit in a place where there is no distraction of sound and all, loudspeaker. Sometimes even in a good quiet place, early morning they will play some music, especially some spiritual thing and all, and irritate everyone. सवेरे सवेरे संतोषे माँ या कोई गाना सवेरे सवेरे 5 बजे, हाँ जोर से. So that is also not good. So the ears should not be distracted by any sound around. The nose should not get distracted, so one should not sit in the kitchen and meditate. Try to remain away from it as much as possible. The sense of touch should not get distracted, just sit at one place. So the senses are kept under control, then the mind is not involved in it. So mind also becomes quiet, because mind's job is to just be supportive of the senses actually. If senses are seeing something, mind should be there behind. If we are able to bring that desire that I don't want to see anything, don't want to touch anything, I just now want to meditate, so mind and the senses are quiet. They are not given any job. Then the buddhi is free to contemplate on the self. A simple mechanism is there within. But if it doesn't happen like that, then the mind goes after the senses and the buddhi runs after the mind. Tadasya harati prajnam. Bhagavan says this mind can carry away the understanding also of this person. How? Vayur navam iva ambhasi. Like in the ocean, if there is a boat, that boat can be carried away just wherever by the wind. Vayuhu navam iva ambhasi. So if you want to take the boat, sometimes the sails and all are put on the boat. You want to take it in one particular place, but because of the wild wind moving in different direction, the boat goes wherever. Not in the place where you want to take it, but it can go somewhere else only. Similarly, we have a particular goal, particular object on which we are meditating. So the buddhi is engaged in it. But if the buddhi gets distracted by the mind, and the mind is distracted by the senses, the buddhi will run after that. It will start thinking about the objects. So to continuously pay attention on the self requires total control over the senses. Senses can be kept under control if we have enough vairagya and if we have enough jidnyasa to know that self. So vairagya also helps us to keep our attention withdrawn from the world. So all these qualities, vivek, vairagya, shama, dama, uparama, titiksha, shraddha, samadhan, mumukshutvam, all of them, they help us to pay attention to the self. So tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavam iva ambhasi. So Bhagavan had started this topic first by saying that a realized person has all his senses under his control. Thereafter he says for other seekers also should try to control his senses, because without that we will not be able to meditate on the Supreme. So after talking about the importance of sense control, Bhagavan concludes that topic in the following verse. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrahitani sarvashah indriyanindriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrahitani sarvashah Tasmad yasya mahabaho, he mahabaho. Bhagavan is addressing Arjuna as mahabaho, mighty arms, mighty person, strong, powerful, great warrior. See, many times one may be a great warrior and will be able to conquer the world outside, but it requires a greater courage and prowess to conquer our own mind, our own senses. One who can conquer their own senses is a greater warrior. So Bhagavan is shifting Arjuna's attention on that. He says, you are Mahabahu, you are a great warrior, no doubt. But now you should also learn to control your senses. Ki tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrahitani sarvashah indriyani. One who has controlled the senses, all the senses, nigrahitani sarvashah, in all ways, if we have managed to control our organs of perception as well as organs of action and our antakarana, all our senses. See, one is that our bahikarana, the external senses. But that antakarana is inner senses, inner organ. So both should be under our control. Through proper understanding. Control doesn't mean jabardasti with force, but with proper understanding. As I had said, it should be a sublimation. Control associated with a higher goal. Then it becomes easier. It becomes natural. It becomes smooth. There is no, many times people ask, how do you do this? How did you manage to remain away from these sense objects? How did you manage to do upvas? How did you manage to control? See, if you focus only on that control, it is difficult. But if one's attention is somewhere else, this happens automatically. Person who is engaged in doing some important work will totally forget about food and everything, even sleep and all. There are great scientists who are so much involved in discovering certain things that they just forget about everything. I heard about one scientist who was so much involved in trying to discover some new thing, and he was living in his laboratory itself. His wife is to send food and all, and somehow is to eat and always will be there. One day his wife came to see what is happening. So he was busy doing some experiment. Suddenly he saw this lady in front. He said, Hari Om, who are you? She said, Buddhu, I am your wife. He had forgotten everything. So when we pay attention to something, that withdrawal of attention from other things happens automatically. But if you try to withdraw attention, it is difficult. You understand? To pay attention is easy, but to not to pay attention is difficult. Like the person who went to that Mahatma, and Mahatma gave him one mantra. He said, this is a most powerful mantra. You chant this mantra every day. But when you chant this mantra, don't remember a monkey. He said, anyway, I don't remember monkeys. I am not fond of monkeys and all. But I am telling you, note it down. While chanting this mantra, don't remember a monkey. And he said so many times, that fellow was totally, he said, yes, I will not remember. And he started chanting, and suddenly that voice came of Mahatma, don't remember monkey, and monkey came. And every time he started chanting, monkey used to come. Different types of monkey, which he had never imagined. Those monkeys also started jumping in his mind. And it became totally impossible for him to chant that mantra without monkeys coming. So, the mind doesn't understand the language of don't very easily. You try it. Don't do this. It doesn't. Mind understands the language of do. Do this. It can understand. Don't do this means what? Means what exactly we should do. Because all the time we are fond of doing something. Not doing is a very difficult thing. So similarly, to control the senses, don't allow them to go here, there and all, it's very difficult. What is important is to pay attention to that higher goal. So when we have that goal properly, then the control of the senses becomes smooth, easy, natural. Therefore Bhagavan says, Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrahitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah. When for that person, when all the senses are properly controlled from all their respective sense objects, then what happens? Tasya prajna pratishtita, his prajna, his understanding, his buddhi will gain abidance in the self. Sahaj. Then the buddhi will gain. So one should try this simultaneously. Have a supreme goal and pay attention to that goal. Automatically the senses will start coming under control. So indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. His prajna is pratisthit, established well in the self. After saying all this, now in a very famous and beautiful words, Bhagavan brings out the difference between a jnani and a ajnani, an enlightened person and a ignorant person. He says, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti sanyami. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam, that which is night for all beings, tasyam jagarti sanyami, in that a sanyami, an enlightened person, keeps awake. We'll see the literal translation first. And yasyam jagrati bhutani, and in that where all beings are awake, sa nisha pashyato munehe. For a muni, that is a night. What it means is, when everyone is asleep, the muni is awake. And when everyone is sleeping, when everyone is awake, he is sleeping. That is his sleep. So what does it mean? See, Nisha means Ratri. What it means is that where all sense of discrimination goes away. Suddenly it becomes dark. We cannot distinguish between one object and another object. Everything is covered with that darkness. Things are not clear. That is the power of that darkness. So that's the Nisha, Ratri. So for all beings, this supreme reality, that is the self, that Atma, that Brahma, that Bhagavan, is like Ratri only. They are totally unaware of it. For all beings, the supreme reality is like Ratri, it's like Nisha. And they are totally unaware of it, so they are as though asleep to it. So, in that Ratri, that is supreme reality, in which all the beings are asleep, this wise person, enlightened person, is awake to it. He has awakened to it. So, it is like even daytime, there are some birds and all who, even though it is bright and brilliant, they only see darkness everywhere. Similarly, for ignorant person, God is not available, God is not present, God is not everywhere. So for them, it is like darkness only. So what is darkness, what is night for all beings? In that the wise person is awake. Tasyam jagarti sanyami, one who has total control over his senses, one who has gained that state of enlightenment, he is wide awake to that reality. Therefore we call such a person an awakened person. Awakened person. And yasyam jagrati bhutani, and in that where all beings are awake. And in what we are awake? In ignorance, in things which are totally a product of ignorance only. This world, interacting with this world, having desires, trying to fulfill those desires. In this everyone is awake. Ignorant person is awake. This waking of all beings is like Ratri, is like Nisha for an enlightened person. Though we are asleep, but it is like we are as though in a state of dream only, wherein we see all these things and consider that itself as supreme, and we are engaged in interacting with this world, obtaining our desired objects, etc. This is like Ratri only for a realized person. So it is totally opposite. The path of an ignorant person and the state of an enlightened person is totally opposite. All our vyavahar in this world happens in the state of avidya only. Avidya means what? Avidya means not knowing myself. Who am I? Because of that, what happens? I identify with my body, with my mind, etc., and consider that as my own self. Because of that, what happens? I have a sense of doership. And I have various desires within. So in order to fulfill those desires, I keep on doing actions in this world. So all actions, whether they are worldly actions or so-called religious actions, are based on ignorance only. Even when we do some religious rituals and all, with the desire to go to Swarga or desire to gain some objects in this world, that is also based on ignorance only. But a realized person is one who has recognized his self. And what he has recognized, that the self is beyond all activity, that I am not a doer, nor am I an enjoyer. I am that self which is birthless, deathless. That recognition has happened clearly for that enlightened person. So he has gone beyond the activities of the world as well as all the religious activities, so-called religious activities. His state is totally different. See, it's like a person who is sleeping and another who is awake. When we are sleeping, when we are dreaming, we are in a different world altogether. But one who is awake is in a different world. Similarly, an enlightened person is in a different state altogether. An ignorant person is in a different state. To bring this out vividly, Bhagavan, in a very dramatic way, he has presented it here, that what is night for all, in that the wise person is awake. And wherein everyone is awake, he considers that as night only. So, ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti sayyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. And the state of this enlightened person is further mentioned in the next verse. Apuryamanachalam pratishtham samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantimapnoti na kamakami apuryamanachalam pratishtham samudramapa pravishanti yadvat. It gives example of the ocean. Ki apuryamanam, the ocean which is filled with water from all the side, completely filled with water. Apuryamanam achalam, free from all movement, steady, achal. The ocean doesn't go from one place to another. It remains at one place. So, apuryamanam achalam pratishtham samudram, it's called samudra. Though it is vast, that samudra, ocean, though it has got various mudras, sometimes the waves, lots of waves, sometimes the ocean seems to be very calm, peaceful. Different mudras are there. Therefore, it's called samudra. Mudrena saha vartate. Lot of moods are there of this ocean. But it is filled with water, waters everywhere. So, apuryamanam achalam pratishtham samudram apapravishanti yadvata. But still, lots of these rivers, they pour their waters into the ocean. So, what happens to all this extra water which comes into the ocean? The ocean just takes in that water also. It doesn't get excited by more water coming. It doesn't get disturbed by water not coming. The water, extra water coming, it doesn't disturb the balance of that ocean. Just imagine the ocean is filled with water. So what more water can, little bit water cannot give it more joy. So that water comes and becomes one with that ocean. Similarly, yadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve. Similarly, the wise person is like the ocean. Enlightened person is like the ocean. And all the kamnas, all the objects of desires, all of them which might come in his life, they just enter his system and just get dissolved into it. Doesn't create any excitement, doesn't create any disturbance, doesn't create any craving. They just enter his system and just get dissolved. Just like in the ocean, the rivers enter and get dissolved. Similarly, all the kamnas, they just come into this person and just get dissolved into the self. For an ignorant person, when the desire arises in the mind, it creates agitation. Then the thoughts come how to fulfill those desires. Then he puts forth effort. If some obstacles are there, then krodha happens, and moha and smriti bhramsha, all this starts happening in case of an ignorant person. But for a wise person, the greatest of all desires, all pleasures of this world, because the eyes are open, the senses are open, so they enter his system and get dissolved into it. उसमें कुछ agitation नहीं होता है. Neither he feels happy nor feel unhappy about it. नाभिनंदति न द्वेष्टि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. He is neither get excited nor start getting disturbed by any of these desirable objects of this world. So shantim apnoti. Why? Because he is full in himself, just like the ocean. Ocean is complete in itself. Suppose you approach an ocean and say, I will give you 1 bucket of water. Ocean says, okay, dal do bucket. I will take out 1 bucket, okay, nikalo. It doesn't make, because the waters are infinite, where this little 1 bucket of water will not create any disturbance. Similarly, the sukha of that realized, enlightened person is so vast that the tiny little pleasures of this world, whether they come or don't come, doesn't create even a little ripple in him. Just imagine. So, tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve. So, all these kamnas which enter the Mahatma, the enlightened person, while he lives in this world, he interacts with the world. So, a lot of objects, desirable objects, enter the system, but it doesn't create any disturbance. There was this great Mahatma, and people had heard that he had paras money. This story is there, paras money. Paras, you know, that if you touch it with what you call to iron, it turns into gold. So, one person came to know about it. He said, I will go and take it from him. So he went to that Mahatma, and he thought that he must be living in some big alishan bangla or something. But a simple kutia was there, and he went there, he did namaskar to that Mahatma, and he said that, oh, I heard that you have this paras money, so please give it to me. He said, it must be lying somewhere in the corner, you just take it. He was so shocked, surprised. And he saw that one thing was fallen on the ground, so he picked it up, he checked it. He had brought one nail also with him, just to check. Immediately it got converted into gold. So he was very excited. He said, yes, this is the real paras money. And he took it, and he did namaskar to the Mahatma, and he started going. But halfway, as he was going back home, he started thinking that, oh, this Mahatma has given me this paras money without even thinking, just like that. How did he manage to do this? He can do this only if he has got something greater than this paras money with him. Otherwise, why will he give? So he came back. He said, Mahatma ji, yes, that please give me that which is, do you have something greater than this paras money? He said, yes. Therefore I gave you this. ये तो कुछ नहीं है, बहुत मेरे पास है. He said, then I want that. He said, if you want that, you will have to drop this paras money, same place. Because लोग बहुत आते हैं, फेंक दो वहाँ पर. Then I will give you that, having obtained which, even this paras money will appear like a piece of stone only to you, having no value. And that is the self only. We have to obtain our own self. We are our self, but we are not aware of it. And it is our, what you call, our birthright. We can attain it. We just have to put forth effort. So once we attain that, all the pleasures of this world, even the pleasures of Indra, will make no difference for that person. It will not add any more joy to that person. Indra Sukha also. Even the Sukha of Brahmaji, Brahmalok, also will be totally insignificant. There is this Upanishad, many of you must have heard, Taittiriya Upanishad, in which the Sukha was mentioned, that the greatest Sukha which we can gain in this world was considered as one unit. Sadhu syat sadhu yuvadhyayakah ashishto dudishto balishtaha tasyayam prithvi vittasya purna syat saeko manusha anandaha. So one young dynamic person, free from all attachment, having all this whole world under his control, having all the joys of this world, that person, the sukha which he will get is one unit. 100 times that sukha is gained in some higher loka. 100 times that is gained in other higher loka. So higher, 100 times, Deva, Manushya Gandharva and Gandharvanam and Indrasya Sukha. Indra's Sukha is much, much more. And more than Indra's Sukha is Prajapati's, what you call Brahaspati's Sukha. More than that is Prajapati's, Brahmaji's Sukha. It is the maximum. And that Brahma Sukha also is insignificant before the Sukha of an enlightened person, which he gains here and now. Without going to Brahmalok, one gains it here and now. Shrotriyasya cha akamahatasya, one who is free from all kamna and one who has gained the knowledge of his own self, the sukha which he gains is much, much more. So it's like the ocean, and all the sukhas of this world are like little water bodies. So apuryamanam pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama pravishanti sarve sa shantim apnoti. So such a person alone gains that supreme peace, who is not disturbed by kamna. So in the stage of a seeker, he tries to control his senses, tries to remain away from all the sense objects and all. But once he gains that state of enlightenment, whether he is with the sense objects or away from them, doesn't make any difference. Yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va sangavihina yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati 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 eva. In Bhaja Govindam, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji says that whether the person is in yoga or bhoga, whether he is with people or staying alone, his mind is constantly reveling only in the self. Therefore, is constantly in a state of joy, state of bliss. Nandati, nandati, nandati. Eva. So, such shantim apnoti. So, one who has dropped kamna becomes happy. It's a very strange thing. Kamna means desire. Ignorant person feels that by fulfilling desire I will become happy. A wise person knows by dropping desire I become happy. This is the difference. Very strange difference. Fulfilling desire also gives us happiness, but that is just a pleasure, and it increases the desire more and more. It's like putting fuel in fire. The more you put fuel, the more the fire blazes. The more one fulfills desires, the more the desires arise. So one who can drop the desires is happy, because happiness is there. Actually, the desire is preventing that us from experiencing that happiness. And even when we fulfill our desire, what gives us happiness? That during that point when the desire is fulfilled, I don't have desire. That gives me happiness, not the object. Not the object. Even suppose somebody comes and tells you, oh, आपको लॉटरी लग गई है. Just by that news you become happy. नहीं भी लगी है, but you are happy. Oh, I had desire to gain money, now it is fulfilled. So when I don't have desire, when the desires are dropped, there is happiness. But that dropping of desire can happen through deep understanding. Otherwise it doesn't go. Otherwise the rasa remains. Rasavarjam, rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So an enlightened person is one who is not disturbed by the kamana, like the ocean. So sa shantim apnoti, he attains peace. Na kama kami, and those who desire desires. See, one is that kama is those desirable objects. And kama kami is one who has got the habit, nature of desiring this desirable object. One is that we gain this, kamna comes, but another is proactively trying to acquire these desires in his heart. His nature has become of desiring objects. There are some people always they are unhappy, always craving for something. You give them anything, still they और क्या है, ये नहीं है, वो नहीं, मुंह टेढ़ा करके बैठ जाते हैं. You give them everything. Even Bhagavan, if he comes and start giving, they will always have complaint. ये तो दिया है लेकिन उसमें वो नहीं है. नहीं, always complaining. बंगला तो दिया है मेरे को इतना बड़ा, लेकिन कलर ठीक नहीं है. गाड़ी तो है लेकिन वो शीशा थोड़ा सा काला होना चाहिए. Some defect. Their attention is on defect. Their attention is on what they don't have. See, our attention is also depends on our attitude. Where do you look? Do you look at what you have or you look at what you don't have? Because दोनों चीजें है, यानी absence भी है, presence भी है. Every person in this world has something and doesn't have something. नहीं? कोई भी हो, कोई भी example ले लो, they have something with them and they don't have many things. So where is your attention? Do you pay attention to what you don't have? Then that will give you sorrow. Do you pay attention to what you have? That will give you satisfaction. But if you pay attention to God, it will give you bliss. It will give you peace. It will give you shanti. So, sa shantim apnoti na kama kami. So those who have this kamna will not have shanti. Therefore, we should strive on this path, become free of all our kamnas and get established in that Supreme Self. More of this we'll see tomorrow. Now 5 minutes we will just sit peacefully without getting disturb ourselves and without disturbing others. 5 minutes सिर्फ, ज़्यादा नहीं. So close your eyes and just bring all your attention in the present moment. God is present. He is present here and now. He is present in our heart. He is present everywhere. We can experience His presence in our heart as our own self. And what are the lakshanas of God? He is peace and happiness, shanti and Sukha. Deep Shanti, supreme peace, peace that passeth all understanding. And supreme bliss. Bring the attitude of not wanting anything. Feel that you have everything. You are complete in yourself. You are the very ocean of bliss. And peace. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.